I am thrilled to introduce both incoming President Ted Carter and Acting President Peter Moeller, and Peter will speak first.
What a great day for The Ohio State University, and what a great day for the state of Ohio. I'm honored and humbled that the trustees have selected me to serve as acting president. Ohio State, as you all know, is truly a special place. I've been here for about 12 years and served as a faculty member, a scientist, and a staff member, and Ohio State is a great place. During my time, I've had the great pleasure of working with faculty, students, and staff from all 15 of our colleges and the Wexner Medical Center. The work, including research, scholarship, teaching, and learning that we do here every day makes a real difference, and I'm so proud to be part of that. I want to thank the Board of Trustees and President Carter for their trust, my faculty and staff peers for their support, and our students for their energy and their passion. I'm excited for autumn semester and for President Carter's arrival in January. With that, it is my great honor to welcome the next president of The Ohio State University, President Ted Carter.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ted Carter. This is my wife, Linda Carter. We are very excited to be here. So before I make just a couple of comments about the events of today, I want to make a couple of comments about the people of the state of Nebraska. I will have been in Nebraska for over 4 years when I depart as the 8th president of the University of Nebraska system on 31 December of this year, 2023. We have been welcomed since the day we started on January 1st of 2020. So for the 8 publicly elected Board of Regents, the 4 student body regents, the 50,000 students, the 16,000 faculty and staff, the governor of the state of Nebraska, I want to say a special thank you. We've been welcomed from the day we started. We've done amazing work together. And I'm also thankful to the Board of Trustees here at The Ohio State University who have given me enough runway to the end of the year to continue my work there at Nebraska as we are going through some budgetary challenges and also trying to do some things that will move the university forward as we are finishing out a 5-point strategic plan. So again, thank you to the people of Nebraska. I will always be a Huskers fan. I will always be a University of Nebraska at Omaha Mavericks fan, and I will always be a University of Nebraska at Kearney Lopers fan, just as I will always be a Navy midshipman fan. Now for today, as I said in my remarks earlier, this has been the most amazing, humbling experience to be welcomed by this campus, by this community, by this state. Lynn and I couldn't be more excited. Ohio State University offers the opportunity to be the very best in higher education, and I'm honored to be a small part of it. So with that, I'd be ready to take your questions.
Stephanie Dupree, ABC 6.
Thank you. I was actually going to introduce myself, but thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Ohio. We're glad that you're here. So, of course, over the last week and some change, I've been out in the field talking to students as they move in. Super exciting. But I've also been able to have, one-on-one conversations with them. And when it comes to leadership, some of the students are saying, I ask them, what are you looking for when it comes to incoming leadership? And a lot of them said, we want incoming leadership to focus on what students and staff care about and less about the school's reputation and revenue. So what would be your comment to that?
Well, I've been very fortunate. I've been in the higher education space for 10 years. And the reason I am in this space is I love being with students. I mean, they're the whole reason we exist. We can talk about research. We can talk about medical care. We can talk about our med school. But at the end of the day, it's about our students. 66,000 students here at this amazing campus. So what our students will find is I will engage. I hope they will think that I'm approachable and that I will listen. I will listen to their concerns. I will care greatly about their success, about their ability to have the best value education at the best price, and also make sure that we keep this campus as safe as possible. So that's how I'm going to engage with our students. I'm looking forward to it.
Dan Hope, 11 Wares.
Hi, Ted. Ohio State's also looking for an athletic director right now. I'm curious, you coming in as president, what will your role be in that as you're integrating here into the university to hiring the new athletic director?
So it's interesting, if you go back and look at what I've had to do in Nebraska in the three and a half plus years, I've had to let go of a football coach at the Cornhuskers, had to hire a new football coach, 2 athletic directors, one at UNO and one at Lincoln, 2 chancellors. So I've been in the talent management space for a long time. I'll just say that there really isn't anybody that's going to replace Gene Smith. I mean, he is arguably the most prestigious, best known, most accomplished athletic director in the country. So let's just be clear, there is no replacing a legend like Gene Smith. That said, I'm looking forward to working with him. We'll have 6 months to work on it together. I'm excited about the opportunity to build that new team of leadership in arguably the greatest Division I sports program of any college campus in the country.
Amanda Tonoli business first.
How do you plan to work with the medical center?
I have. I've met with John Warner, and we had a great relationship already. There's so much to learn with what they're doing with their 7 colleges and what they do for the clinical space. I know they are a tremendous asset for the entire state of Ohio. I look forward to continuing with what they can do. I'm looking forward to learning more about what they can do in the research space. They are arguably one of the greatest medical school, medical research facilities in the country.
George Shokop, WSU.
Hi, I heard your comment about education being under attack during your speech, and I wanted to ask, in your time in Nebraska, especially the last 2 years, the legislature there put increasing pressure on the university, put spending with crosshairs trying to institute a ban on critical race theory. I wanted to ask, in particular, what are your thoughts on, if you're in Ohio lawmakers wanting to get more involved in higher education policy and curriculum setting?
Right. Well, first of all, our campus should be a place where everybody's welcome, everybody's voice is heard. Having worn the cloth of our nation for 38 years as a Navy officer, you can imagine how I feel about supporting the Constitution of the United States and the First Amendment. So that's where I come from. I've also been leading at multiple campuses throughout my life, and what you'll find about me is I do it in an apolitical manner. I know my lane. I am not a legislator. I do not write state laws. I follow them, and we'll make sure that we continue to do that here. Now, that said, in Nebraska, I engaged with all 49 state senators, a unicameral, one single body, the entire time I was there. I had a good relationship with everybody that sat on the left, sat on the right, because I'm a straight shooter, and I tell it like it is, and I'm very transparent in how I operate. I intend to do the same here. I think there needs to be more dialogue with our state legislature. I think they just want to know what's going on here and make sure that we can find and work together collaboratively where we can. I have been following Senate Bill 83. I don't know all the details of it. I've been a little bit pleased to see some compromises made there. But at the end of the day, we're going to do the right things for the right reasons. And again, as I said, we'll follow whatever state laws are passed.
Delaney Ruth, NBC4.
Hi. So you are inheriting a major legal battle about the sexual abuse of hundreds of students here at Ohio State with Dr. Richard Strauss. The university's own study did confirm it. So what role in the decisions are you going to play when it comes to the Strauss scandal here? And do you believe that OSU victims should be compensated?
So first, let me just say, I know enough about the Strauss situation as most Americans have followed it in the media. I am certainly not an expert on it yet, so I'm going to hold some level of comments in that until I get smarter about it. I have a little bit of time. But that said, I follow my predecessors in saying how sorry I am, and I apologize for those survivors of that abuse. I know this university has been open to listening to them, and I know there's more litigation to be done, and I'll have more comments and thoughts on that as I get more knowledgeable in the seat.
Max Philp, Columbus Dispatch.
President Kirk, you had mentioned at the other room that higher education is sort of under attack right now. Can you elaborate what you meant by that, what you're going to do to kind of fend off those attacks?
Yeah, so I was speaking more at the national level. As many of you know, since COVID, we're down about 1.6 million students across most public and private universities. That's a significant drop. And we look forward out there to the enrollment cliff where the birth rates are going to drop numbers that are attending universities even further going into 2027, 2028. And on top of that, this dialogue that maybe universities are a little too expensive. Maybe it's not worth the four-year degree, that the job market should change to that. I want us to be the mouthpiece that will speak truth to power. The truth is, by the year 2030, we're going to need more well-educated students across this nation. There are a significant, and I'm saying more than 30% of the jobs in 2030 that we don't even know what they are because they haven't been invented yet. But they're going to need a higher education degree. And you're going to earn $1.5 million more with a degree than if you didn't have one. That's a fact. So we ought to be able to speak plain language and say why higher education matters. But in the meantime, we should also make sure that we are being affordable and accessible as much as possible.
First things first, welcome to Ohio. It's a great
Thank you.
place to be. Once your tenure does start, is there anything specifically you were hoping to accomplish during your time at Ohio State?
Well, this is already a great university. But, when you're at or near the top, some people would say there's only one place you can go, and that would be down. I'm going to make sure that we don't ever go down. In fact, where we are at the top, like our nursing programs, we want to make sure that we stay at the top. Our College of Law, near the top of the best in the country, we want to make sure that we maintain that. Where we're not, in some areas where we're just really, really good, how about we get to great? So I'm going to be making sure that all of our programs are centers of excellence.
Following up on my colleague's earlier question, we might not be super familiar with this process of these cases. However, while you were superintendent of the Nebraska Academy, we had a university fire after investigations by major publications about failure to properly report and investigate sexual assault. Ohio State has had similar issues in the past with the sexual stability and housing agreement. For example, what changes to reporting and investigating sexual assault claims and reports did you implement that made what happened and to proceed with
Yeah, and I'm sure you will all be able to back check all the things that I've done and said when I was a superintendent at the Naval Academy. It's well documented. My testimony in front of Congress multiple times in my 5 years as superintendent is a very tough topic. We surveyed our midshipmen every year and took information from them. I made multiple moves in terms of changing how we took care of survivors, in terms of making reporting easier and more secure. I also made significant strides in how we educated our midshipmen on understanding what it meant and prevention, and even use our own midshipmen to be their own educators amongst themselves, which we found to be very powerful. We also held the first summit on sexual assault that was attended by most of the major universities across the country. That was near the end of my time there, to make sure that we were having a dialogue about these difficult conversations. So I've been pretty open and transparent. I can't say that we had it always right, but I can say that we never stopped caring, and we never, ever did not prosecute those that were accused to the utmost of our ability within our legal limits. And if you go back and look at our track record, even though we didn't find every potential perpetrator guilty of those crimes, we had many successes in that, and I think we started to change the dialogue. Now, as you look at this problem set, it continues to evolve. It's still a problem on all of our campuses across the nation. I know for a fact here at Ohio State that they do surveys and they do education. I'll have to learn a lot more about what the programs are here before I can comment further.
Colin Dorsey, MTV.
Yeah, as she mentioned, a lot of students are interested in a president that serves them, that's not worried about the dollars and cents. In Nebraska, you have the Nebraska Promise that ease tuition for those students. First off, is that something you're thinking about bringing to Ohio, but how do you march the fine line of pleasing the students you serve and also minding the dollars and cents?
So we came up with Nebraska Promise right at the beginning of COVID-19. I realized that there was a chance that we might not be able to get to those that might have been middle income or lower income. We weren't sure what COVID-19 would do to families in terms of their economics. And COVID-19 was a challenge for us, as they were everywhere. Nebraska Promise was a last dollar in for needs-based students that were at the middle and lower income level. I will tell you that when we introduced that in May of 2020, we had 7,000 students, which is a big number in a state like Nebraska, that signed up for that program immediately. I worked with the legislatures, many of whom were concerned where the money would come for to pay that. I intentionally cut my own budget. Within the budget that we had, we cut some programs and administrative staff to pay for that. It was about a $5 million a year price tag. We continue to have that. It still continues to operate very well. I don't know all the programs that exist here at Ohio State that might be similar. I know there are a lot of needs-based programs. I know the previous president had introduced some initiatives to try to make a zero debt move for students that were here, and I've seen the percentages of students leaving with zero debt going up over the last couple of years. I applaud that effort. I don't know much more about it. I'll have to look into it a little bit more.
Julie Carson-Mike, Associated Press.
So you presided over some enrollment gains in Nebraska and diversifying in Channel 2,
Okay.
middle and lower income students. How do you see the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on affirmative action challenging similar efforts here?
I think, first of all, we've got to acknowledge that we'll follow the law, that our application process, whether it's already changed or not, I haven't been able to look that deeply into it. But we just have to understand that that doesn't change our mission. We should be open and welcome to students of all backgrounds. I mean, that is the very definition of diversity. Interestingly, as you may have noted, that the service academies were exempt from that. I will tell you that while I was superintendent of the Naval Academy, we did not use any quota systems. We did not use affirmative action in that regard to try to fill our ranks with some set number of students. We used a whole person multiple, and I see us doing something similar now in the state of Nebraska. We already had laws that prevented us from using affirmative action to begin with, so there was no change to how we do admissions there. We'll study and learn more about how that applies here. But as I look at the campus background that's here, I'm very proud to see that this is a very, very diverse campus here, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Joe Rowland, ABC 6.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Mr. President. I assume you won't root for the Huskers on certain days in the future of the shoot. We'll let that slide.
Right.
As you well know, even though you've been out of the military a few years, there's become increasing pressure on the supposed woke culture, politically correct, you name it, diversity, equity, inclusion. Universities come under that same fire. You already broached some of these topics. Where do you come down? This was something that the previous president emphasized very aggressively here. Do you plan to do the same?
So I'm going to be myself. To be quite frank, I don't know Christina Johnson very well. We met virtually during COVID when she first got here. I will do the job the way I have learned how to do it at other campuses. I think first and foremost, I want to understand the culture that I'm coming into and then be part of that and lead from that perspective. As I mentioned, I take the approach in this job in an apolitical manner, but I also look at through the lens of what is in the best good for our students, our faculty, and our staff. And what I mean by that is I will focus on the mission of what we do, and the mission's very clear here. I mean, it's about education, it's about meaningful research, it's about attracting and retaining faculty, the best that we can find in the country. It's about taking care of medical education, doing medical research, medical care, and then, of course, athletics, which is a big part of the biggest Division I athletic program in the country. So I will stay very clear to the mission. I don't use words like woke or the words that are out there. I find those to be clickbait. We just do what's right, and everything else will take care of itself.
Could you elaborate on what's right in terms of DEI?
Well, I think, first of all, DEI has already become a clickbait phrase. So just by saying it, people will all render some sort of opinion. But here's how I view it. You know, if we are going to be open to bringing all walks of life and educate them, let them grow emotionally, physically, socially at an institution like this, they're ready to be good citizens, we want to have a diverse campus. And that's much, much more than what the color of skin or what ethnicity somebody is. I'm looking for diversity of thought and diversity of people to elevate this campus. And if we can find success across all walks of our student body, then we will have achieved something that really is inclusive.
Stephanie, ABC 6.
Sir, do you have any plans, or when are you going to address safety on campus or within the university district? Of course, just recently we had an OSU wrestler shot by a Kroger that many students use. Of course, we do our due diligence and speak to safety. You know, we see campus police out all the time, but is that something you're going to be addressing?
It's absolutely going to be at the top of my priorities. I've led a number of campuses, and safety has always been a challenge. I mean, obviously, we watch what happens on the national scene at many of our university campuses. I'm very happy to hear that Ohio State wrestler is not seriously injured, and I'm wishing him and his family well. But this is a message for our students and for the parents of our students. They want to know that we're making every effort to keep our campus safe. I know there's been some investments here recently. I promise to take another look at that, and if we need to make further investments to make sure that we're doing everything possible, I will do that.
Hi, so you did call coming here the greatest honor of your career. You had a very distinguished career before this, had many accolades. What makes coming here and being the leader of this university the greatest honor of your career?
Well, this is the largest, most complex organization I will have ever become part of. You have to acknowledge that. And, when you come into an institution like this, the first thing you have to think about is if this is a big, giant elephant, how do you tackle that? And as I've learned in other, complex organizations that I've had the privilege of run while in uniform and in civilian life, it's still the same. It's one bite at a time. So my first job and my first order is to make sure I do no harm. I don't want to come in and change things that are already going well. I want to learn a lot, and I'm going to do a lot of listening to all the colleges, the students, the faculty, the staff, the faculty senate. And then I'm going to try to get a better understanding of where I can impart my leadership for us to just take it to that next level. So at the end, when I'm saying goodbye to you someday, I want to look all of you in the eye and say, I left The Ohio State University maybe only slightly, but certainly better than when I found it.
Amanda, to know business first.
You mentioned now former President Johnson. Do you have any concerns with taking the job?
Do I have concerns about it?
About taking this job, given her brief tenure here?
No, I wish her well, and I hope at some point she and I will have a conversation. I do feel that coming into this job, and I'm really thrilled that we have Acting President Peter Moeller as coming in here to just kind of keep everything on the rails. And I think there just has to be a little bit of, to use a nautical term, steadying the ship here with this leadership void that's been going on for a little while.
Ariana Smith, the Lantern.
Hi. I just wanted to ask you, are there any initiatives that your predecessor started that you would like to continue? And if not, what do you hope to implement within your first few months of your presidency?
So as I take over a large, complex organization like this, I will look across all of the initiatives that were started. I don't have a complete list. I've read some. I want to understand them a little better. I want to make sure I understand how they're resourced. And I think some of them have all been done with great intention and have been welcomed. And I've heard from some students and staff that they want to see some of these things continue. So again, I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver, but I do want to get to understand those better. I do intend within my first 6 months of being in this job to either take what is the current strategy for the university, either rewrite it, adjust it, or make one from my own that will lead us over the next 5 years.
Mr. Szilagyi, NBC4.
You recently had your contract at the University of Nebraska extended for 2027. Why do you feel now is the stepping away?
Well, first, you should all know, and I said this earlier, I loved working at Nebraska. I'm not leaving there disgruntled, unhappy about anything. It's a tough job, and Nebraskans have welcomed my wife and I the entire time we've been there. So that's important. The contract that I had that was extended, I was very appreciative. It wasn't something I asked for. But this is a different opportunity. I mean, you all clearly understand that this university is a significant opportunity for any academic leader to want to be part of. So when the opportunity came up, after a lot of very, very difficult thought, it is a bittersweet day because I will be saying goodbye to Nebraskans at the end of the year, but I'm going to be welcomed by a whole different community. And what I've seen thus far, this is a great place to be.
Dan Oak, London Lawyers.
Ted, you had said earlier this year that you thought the Big Ten was going to expand again, and it did. What did you think of the latest round of expansion, and do you think more expansion is coming?
Well, I can't know that. Nobody can. It's we're in an interesting space. if we go back to that article you're referring, what I was really talking about was, should one team move, there might be a little bit of an unraveling, which is kind of what happened. I mean, it was sort of predictable. I didn't have any inside knowledge, of course. But as you look at what has just happened with bringing in 4 Pac-12 teams into the Big Ten, what an opportunity for all of our sports to get exposure across 4 time zones, to increase our recruiting capabilities. It's going to be difficult for some of our Olympic sports. I think the scheduling there is going to have to really be thought through. But in terms of what it will mean for Big Ten football, I think it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, sort of following up on the question about your predecessor. Obviously, they interviewed you, but you probably interviewed them. I just wonder if there are certain assurances that you wanted to at least check out. I mean, something blew up, obviously, with Christina Johnson at this university, and that's not why you're here today. But you can see the remains of the explosion. Did you want some assurances that I need to check out these trustees, check out this, make sure I'm not walking into something?
Well, I will say you have one part of that right for sure. When there's an interview, it's 2 ways. And I will just say that this Board of Trustees is exceptional. Not just because they picked me, but they are exceptional because of the talent they bring, the passion they have for this university. I've been very impressed by the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, everybody. We'll
Yes.
give the lantern the last shot.
All right, the lantern, you get last word.
Yes, so I just have one more question for you. So your presidency starts January 1st, 2024. What do you plan to do between now and then to plan for your presidency?
So that's a great question. Obviously, I still have a lot of work to do in Nebraska, and what you'll find out about me is I don't take the pack off. And that's why I'm thankful that I've been given that time to do some important work at Nebraska. Also give our Board of Regents some time to find my relief, which is also very important. I plan to stay in touch with the acting president, with our cabinet. We'll probably have some regular check-ins just so that I can hear what's happening on the campus. And of course, I am a subscriber to the Lantern. I'm a subscriber to the Columbus Dispatch. I will be following your stories and learning from all of you.